The ABC debate, so-called moderators, lied about FBI crime statistics, and Trump was right. This series of lies that came out in this debate communicates something about the Mockingbird media. They do not care about being believed by at least a third of the country. They've placed a bet on being believed by a third of the country that votes Democrat, roughly half the country, and there's a massive, massive business model behind this. ESPN, part of the ABC Disney family, or at least they used to be, they've placed the same bet. They placed the bet on being on the anti-speech side. They're placing a bet on the China model, authoritarianism and crony capitalism, meaning a continuation of the Obamacare business model of forcing people to purchase products they don't want at prices they can't afford for services they don't need from companies they hate. It's a brilliant business model. Part and parcel of this with the Mockingbird media is recognizing that the paychecks are coming 9/10 of the time on their news programming, and I think it's pretty close to that in their sports programming from Big Pharma. Big Pharma can no longer operate without big government. They've become one and the same. So they're going to continue down this path of not being believed by Republicans. That's over. Republicans should recognize this. But some of the lies are so easily undone that we need to go through them here just to show how simple it is. We also need to address Kamala Harris's gun confiscation plan, which isn't really a plan, it's a threat. And I pray that she doesn't try to pull this off. I pray that she's bluffing. I pray that she's lying. I pray that Congress doesn't try to let her do this. And if she does it through executive fiat, I need to tell you something about places like North Idaho. And I need to bold them, italicize them, and underline them so people understand the threat of what she is actually insisting that she intends to do. Before that, let me make a statement about a threat to your business, your home, particularly if you're in the business of BRBO or Airbnb, where you simply want people to come into your home and feel relaxed and welcome, and you have anything in your house that produces a bad smell. Cats are famous for this. Birds, parrots. I'm sorry, I know you love your pets. I love mine too. And I don't want Haitian immigrants coming and stealing our pets and eating them. We put up a big sign, no eating our cats, and we put it in French so that they'll understand, of course. You don't want that either. You might have an Airbnb that you have people in and out. Of course, that's the business model, right? You do not want the next guest coming in and going, wow, what did the last people cook in here? What did they do in here? And if you smoke, please stop. But if you feel you can't or you're still working on it, please understand what your house and car smells like to other people. You can clear this all up without the loud, just huge sucking sound of an air filter, which cannot do what the OxyLeaf Eden Pure device does. Eden Pure OxyLeaf 2 from EdenPureDeals.com produces ozone. It's almost completely silent, and the O3 molecules are pretty magic. As they float through the air, they attach to molecules from pet dander or from cat litter or from cigarettes or BO, and it negates them. It changes their molecular structure so they're gone. And what you get in return is a room or an Airbnb or a BRBO that smells like the day after a thunderstorm. And I'll save you $200 right now. Go to EdenPureDeals.com, enter code TOD3, and you save $200 on whole home coverage. That's 3 of these devices. EdenPureDeals.com, enter code TOD3, and breathe a breath of fresh air again. Or more importantly, have your guests in your BRBO and Airbnb always encounter fresh air. During the debate, you saw some of the live so-called fact-checking. We knew at the time it was an utter lie. We now know that some of the conflicts in this debate are so impressive. For instance, Lindsay Davis, the female so-called moderator or participant in the debate, funny thing, she was bragging to George Stephanopoulos back when Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were being installed in the White House. She was explaining to George Stephanopoulos that she was a sorority sister of Kamala Harris. The Trump team okayed him being in front of David Muir, who was attacking him, and we knew he was going to do that, and a woman who was the sorority sister of Kamala Harris, Lindsay Davis. During the debate, of course, the discussion turned to guns and crime, and President Trump was challenged by David Muir, who said, actually, President Trump, crime statistics show crime is down in the United States. Wow. I have a great idea. Want to know how to have less crime being reported? Don't report crimes. Or in the case of states or separate countries like Seattle, legalize activities like vandalism, simple assault, theft, petty theft. Don't prosecute them because they're no longer crimes. And look, crime statistics are down. A great fact check from a citizen journalist. Super simple to do this. This is from an account I follow on Twitter called Amuse. And they've got the pictures and the data behind it. About 6,000 law enforcement agencies aren't providing data to the FBI. What that means is that 25% of the country's crime data is not being captured by the FBI. A visual aid to this is pretty cool to see. Soros-linked prosecutors, the first image, Soros-linked prosecutors are the following cities. And you can look at a map across the United States. There's 70 total of them. You can take that map and then overlay it with cities that are not recording crime statistics. And look, they're almost all the same cities. 25% of crime data is not being reported to the FBI. Therefore, crime is down. See, people can look with their own eyes in their own environment and understand crime is up. My wife and I have to make a trip to Seattle in the 1st of December. We're going there for an event together, and we're going to be there for a week. Well, we don't want to take our car or truck. I was talking to my wife about this. We need to rent an Airbnb, and please have the Oxyleaf 2 Eden Pure device for me there. We need to rent an Airbnb or a B&B, and we need to have a garage. Otherwise, you are not going to wake up and find your truck necessarily gone, but you'll find your catalytic converter gone. Something will be broken into. The statistics are just too high. People can see it with their own eyes. And the residents of Springfield, Ohio saw things with their own eyes. And in New York City, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Black people whose support for President Trump has tripled, they see it in their neighborhoods. The solution to all this, of course, according to Kamala Harris, is gun confiscation. Here's Kamala talking about mandatory gun confiscation and indicating that she thinks it's a great idea, something she'd like to do in her first 100 days.
Your gun control agenda?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. But I mean, listen, I don't think we lack for great ideas. As I've said many times, we've been having great ideas for decades. The problem is that Congress has not had the courage to act. And that is why, from the beginning, I have said, my agenda includes attempting to get Congress to act, but if they don't within the first 100 days of my administration, I'm going to take executive action. Because what we need is action.
So if Congress will not do what she wants, she says within the first 100 days, she's going to take executive action to go out and confiscate guns. Please don't. Absent a constitutional amendment that would negate the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, please don't. I know this will thrill some people, but you will have to kill me to get my guns. I don't have any desire to shoot at cops. Now, if you're coming to my house illegally to take my guns and you're going to be violent and you're going to threaten my family, I'll protect my family. And if that means I have to shoot you, God forbid, I don't want to do that ever. I never want to do that. I would hate that. I can't even fathom the feeling involved in that. But if you're threatening my family, I'll do it in a split second to protect my family. But I'm not everybody. There are people locked and loaded for this moment. And I live in North Idaho, and a lot of people kind of secretly want this moment. I pray it never happens. Kamala Harris may be the person willing to light the fuse on an actual hot civil war. She might be willing to do that. So-called Reverend Raphael Warnock seems to want her to do that.
Should she also be, in your opinion, supporting a mandatory gun buyback program?
Listen, we're not going to be able to get where we need to go without action in Congress. We've got to pass some laws to deal with this. Now, I was heartened by the fact that 2 years ago, we finally did a gun safety law, the Safer Communities Act. And it was the first gun safety law we passed in 30 years. 30 years. And it was modest, but it did save lives. But clearly, in the wake of what happened just the other day in Winder, Georgia, it's not enough. And the least we can do is move forward on the bipartisan spaces where ordinary people agree. Clearly, there's a disconnect between what the people, the American people, want and what they're able to get out of their government. Again, 87% of Americans believe in background checks. And yet I hear politicians say that it's not guns who kill people, it's people who kill people. And yet we don't even want to know who those people are. We won't even support.
Senator, just yes or no, though. Should she support the mandatory buyback program? Just a yes or no.
Listen, look, as a pastor, I've done buyback programs. You can pick this issue or that issue. But I think that, again, there's not one single thing that will make all of this go away.
So he's not going to answer, but he seems to want it. Did you catch the propaganda? Of course you did. A mandatory gun buyback program. You can't buy back what you didn't sell. We didn't buy our guns from you. Mandatory is not purchasing, it's taking. The only reason you would give us our own money, because it comes from taxpayers, is because the Constitution forbids government taking without recompense. I'm not saying this to be menacing. I want you to understand something. There are places in North Idaho where people hope you try this. They hope you light this fuse. And you can say, well, we've got the F-15s and Joe Biden likes to brag about that. You can't go against the government. We've got the F-15s. Have you seen the Ukraine war? Did you see the Vietnam War? Do you understand even partially who you're actually talking about? I can tell you, in many cases, you're talking about a ton of former military. And I'm talking about some high-level, elite military people in this area. You're talking about people who have trained for decades in preparation for what you think you want to do. So for every dude like me that's going to try to turn the other cheek unless you come and try to get my family, you'll have to kill me to get my guns because I'm not going to give them up. I don't want to kill you, God forbid. But you're going to have to kill me to get my guns. Why? Because there's some things worse than death. One of the things that's worse than death is leaving your kids in a country that has become unbelievably authoritarian with your participation. Kamala Harris has no functioning morality, so nothing would stop her from doing this. But maybe if she understood the amount of violence she would bring around in this country, she might actually pause for a moment and figure out that she would be lighting a fuse that cannot be unlit.